Welcome to this presentation on understanding the graduation rate correction process. Arkansas graduation rate goals. It is the expectation that all high schools in the state of Arkansas for the 4-year cohort graduate at least 94% of all students in their school. And Arkansas's long-term goal for a 5-year graduation rate is to graduate 97% of all students. Arkansas High School can be found in needs of comprehensive support if the graduation rate falls below 66.67%. How we calculate our graduation rate. We're looking for the number of members who earned a regular high school diploma over the number of expected graduates minus the number of students who transferred out, immigrated to another country, or transfers to a juvenile facility, or unfortunately, some students may die. Cycle 9. Cycle 9 is the final graduation list. August 15th is the last day for summer graduates. Remember to update eSchool at the end of the year to make sure that the students do not roll over. The ADE uses cycles 2 through 7. Cycle data is used to establish a student's first-time entry into the cohort. Cycle submissions are used to verify a student's grade level at entry and/or withdrawal. Notice in the picture that we are looking at cycles 2 through 7, and this particular student for years 18 and 19 shows that the student repeated the 9th grade. So the ADE looks back over 4 years of cycle data to determine when a student entered and left a cohort. Correcting cohort records. There are 3 types of corrections that can be made in the correction system. You can delete a cohort record, which is removing a student from the cohort. You can correct a cohort record, a student that is marked as a non-graduate and the student is an actual graduate. Or you can add a cohort record. A student's name does not appear on the graduation list, but the student is an actual graduate. Deleting a cohort record. You can delete a student from a cohort if a student enrolled in another Arkansas school, moved out of state, immigrates to another country, enrolls into homeschool, enrolls into a private school, dies, or transfers to a prison or a DYS facility. If a student transfers to another Arkansas school, the student must be an on-time transfer. The student must have the same state ID between both schools. This is the hardest correction to prove because the system looks back over time to ensure that the student should be in his or her respective cohort. A good example of documentation would be the eSchool entry withdrawal screen. If a student enrolls in another school out of state, the SIS code is 18. A request for records from the receiving school and an eSchool entry withdrawal page are acceptable pieces of documentation. Note here the eSchool entry withdrawal screen and then the request for records from the receiving school. You may have a student to immigrate to another country. The SIS code, withdrawal code, is 18. An eSchool entry withdrawal page that validates that the student is an on-time transfer, and a letter on the district's letterhead from the superintendent indicating that the student moved to another country. A foreign exchange student. To remove a foreign exchange student from the cohort, a school must document that the student was in the school for 1 year and have a letter from the host organization. A student can be removed from the cohort if they went to homeschool. An on-time transfer would have to be noted with the homeschool waiver form, all pages. The curriculum must not say GED. If the curriculum plan is noted as GED, then the student will be counted as a GED and must stay in the cohort. To accompany the correct homeschool waiver form, an eSchool entry withdrawal page must validate that the student was an on-time transfer. Enrolled in a private school. If a student withdrew to go to a private school, they must withdraw with the code 16. Acceptable documentation is an eSchool entry withdrawal page that validates that the student is on time and an on-time request for records from the receiving school. Unfortunately, many students may not make it to graduation. In the event that a student dies, the SIS withdrawal code is 3. A school or LEA must have written confirmation that the student is deceased before removing the student from the cohort. An obituary from the newspaper, a program from the service, or the funeral home website obituary can be used to remove the student from the cohort. Jail. Beginning in 2018, students who transferred to a prison or juvenile facility could be removed with the SIS code of 2. Although the guidance tells us that a student can be removed from the graduation rate in B9, Arkansas correctional facilities do not offer a regular high school diploma. The ESSA law states that a student can only be transferred if they enter into an educational program that offers a regular high school diploma. The Division of Youth Services, or DYS, will offer students a diploma. Deleting students from a cohort. There are common errors when trying to delete a student. Selecting the incorrect removal from the cohort code, uploading incorrect documentation, and the eSchool entry withdrawal shows that the student has repeated a grade are normally the errors that can cause a record to be denied. Notice on the display that you have to select remove/transfer to another school and then select the reason for removing the student from the cohort. Correcting a cohort record. After careful review of the list of graduates, a student who was an actual on-time graduate was marked as a no in the correction engine. To change the no to a yes, you must upload the student's signed and sealed transcript in the system, verify the student's demographic information is correct, and change the student to an actual graduate. Correcting a student cohort record common errors. A lot of times, schools want to give credit to an early graduate. An early graduate should be banked until the year of actual graduation. Correcting a student's cohort record is not the same as deleting a student record. Correcting a student's record adds the student to the actual graduate list. If the correction is done in error, the rate stays the same and the correction does not count. Adding a cohort record. Adding a cohort record. Adding a student to the cohort must be approved by the ADE. A student can be added to the cohort with the signed transcript for the current year of graduation. To add the student record, all of the information on this list must be completed. The Arkansas Math and Science School students cannot be counted as graduates. These students must be removed from the sending school's cohort. The students should be removed from the cohort using the transfer to a private school request. Special corrections. A student should always keep the same state ID while being educated in Arkansas. If a student's state ID has been changed for any reason, schools must identify the duplicate state ID numbers and immediately request for the student's data to be merged under a single state ID. Duplicate state IDs can cause serious issues in calculating graduation rates and other accountability designations. The Bureau of Legislative Audit. The Bureau of Legislative Audit randomly selects school districts to audit. Please be prepared for this audit every summer. The audit team will be looking for the following: a list of corrections. Download a spreadsheet of the graduation rate correction system. Identify the school's request for students to be removed from the cohort. You should also identify students who were added and students that were corrected, but they're mainly looking for students who have been removed from the cohort. Save all documentation and check the graduation rate system to see what was approved or denied during the corrections process and update your spreadsheet for your reference. Resources for this PowerPoint are the non-regulatory guidance for graduation rates, which are federal rules, the 2019 business rules, the corrections guide, and frequently asked questions about graduation rates. For questions, comments, or concern, please call the School Performance Unit at 501-682-7339.